Welcome to the Market Frontlines. I'm Lyndsay Malchuk. The race for battery dominance is no longer just about lithium. The real breakthrough may come from what happens inside the battery itself. The materials that determine how fast it charges, how far it goes, and how long it lasts. And right now, the global EV supply chain is scrambling for the next generation of performance. Enter NEO Battery Materials, a company focused on advancing silicon anode technology that could dramatically increase lithium-ion battery capacity and efficiency. And in a market where automakers are desperate for longer range, faster charging, and lower cost, the stakes are massive. Joining me now is someone right at the center of that push, Danny Ha, SVP of Strategy and Operations at NEO Battery Materials. Danny has been helping steer the company through a critical moment as the industry moves towards higher performance battery chemistries and commercial scale production. Danny, it's great to have you here with us.
Great to be here.
Well, you know, your first time here in our studio, and you're here in Vancouver,
Yes,
sunny Vancouver.
Absolutely.
So
much better than Toronto.
We just came from Toronto, and I'm going to tell you, he's right, for sure. I want to just dip in really quick because we don't have a lot of time here and just start off with your silicon anode and the performance gains of that. I know that NEO's silicon anode technology is designed to boost lithium-ion battery capacity and energy density while still maintaining that cycle stability. So my question is, what has NEO solved in silicon anodes that others have struggled with, and why is the industry ready for that now?
Yes, absolutely. So right now, the biggest problem with using silicon within the lithium-ion battery is that the silicon, when it charges it expands by about 300, 400% its original size. And then you can imagine like a balloon growing in size and eventually it pops.
Right.
So that similar mechanism takes place within the lithium-ion battery. And for the past 10 years, there's been a lot of companies that have been attempting to solve this volume expansion issue. So what usually happens in the engineering world is that, as you know, the cost inflates by a significant amount.
That's true.
Yes. So that's why right now there are silicon anodes that have been commercialized with lithium-ion batteries, but the costs are almost 8 to 10 times that of graphite, which is the current anode material for the batteries. So we've taken a different approach by starting with the costs and then the performance. So we've actually introduced one of the lowest cost silicon inputs that we can use for the batteries, which is called metallurgical grade silicon, or metal silicon for short. And we also retrofitted an existing wet processing that has been already used in various industries, and we've used that to actually manufacture the silicon anode materials themselves, which means that we don't need very expensive equipment, we don't need expensive inputs, but we use a very low-cost, effective input, plus a low-cost manufacturing process, which enables us to let the silicon anode perform within the lithium-ion battery, but be much cheaper, almost 60 to 80% cheaper compared to what our competitors can manufacture in the field today.
Wow, that's innovative in itself right
Yes.
there. Big move. Now, what about moving towards commercialization then? Or yes, commercialization. You know, NEO is advancing its silicon anode towards integration with the EV battery supply chain.
Yes, absolutely. So actually, we've taken a strategic differentiation when it comes to the downstream application, because as many investors or the general public knows, that the EV industry hasn't been doing too well. So
No. So tell us more about how you're fixing that gap.
Yes, absolutely. So that's why we've been directing our development approach more towards drones, robotics, and the umbrella term is now called physical AI. So any type of hardware that has AI in it, we call it physical AI. And most of these systems all require batteries, because some are fuel powered, but most of this market is battery powered.
Okay.
But as many people may know right now, almost 80 to even 98% of the global market for these types of batteries are being produced in China today. And this is a huge supply chain security problem for especially the US, North America, and even European countries. So what we've done is, instead of directing the silicon anode R&D towards EV applications, we've twisted that more towards this drone and robotics sector, which doesn't require long cycle life of, let's say, 1,000 or 1,500 cycles like EVs, but they only require, let's say, at max 300 or 500 cycles, which is a much lower barrier towards commercialization and entry. So that's why we're taking a much faster approach towards commercializing these silicon anode materials, so that it doesn't have to take 10, 15 years like EV development.
Wow. So if we talk about the longevity of the charge itself, We just took a visit over at Volatus Aerospace in Toronto as well, and they have the most incredible drones. And it's not just those little handheld ones anymore. I mean, they're talking life-size, helicopter-size ones, and some of those are, you said, fuel-based. Some of them are battery-based, but the longevity of those charges, especially in defense, are 100% needed. So how is NEO actually working with that, say a defense sector where they need that longevity of the battery charge?
Absolutely. So the longevity is probably one of the most critical factors for the defense sector today.
Yeah.
So that's why we're not just doing silicon anode materials R&D now, but we're actually manufacturing batteries themselves. So we've gone more to the downstream to provide robust, longer running, faster charging batteries, especially through our expertise, because our engineers come from the world's largest battery manufacturers outside of China, which is LG Energy Solution and Samsung SDI. So with that engineering expertise, we've been able to increase the performance of the batteries drastically compared to the Chinese. And in our recent live drone demo test, we've been able to double the flight time compared to Chinese batteries. And that's all through quality manufacturing and also the integration of silicon anodes. So that's how we were able to differentiate from the current pack for especially drone and robotics batteries today.
So if we look at a supply chain, we're seeing, fortunately, right now across the board, there's a bit of a block getting the material to where we need it to be.
That's
with,
right.
Shipping being a massive issue right now with geopolitical stuff. Are you seeing that on your end at all with any of your material?
Yes, not with specifically our materials because we all source them from South Korea, which makes them robust from, let's say, Chinese sourcing and concerns from downstream customers if we are using Chinese supplies. But we've been able to secure this robust upstream supply chain of players in which we are able to manufacture starting from Korea and manufacture ending with Korea. So that's why we provide that supply chain security differentiation to our customers. But overall within the industry, we've seen this huge shift from trying to get the battery supply chain outside of China now. So especially with the U.S. Department of War, now they call it, and with the new National Defense Authorization Act, they're starting to phase out Chinese batteries starting January 1st, 2028, with a full phase out by January 1st, 2031. And right now, the defense manufacturers are scrambling to find battery sources because there's not a lot that comes out of outside of China, but then there's no good batteries that come outside of China. So we're trying to fill in that supply gap right now that exists within the current market. So we want to become a known brand name within the US, Europe, as well as the Asia Pacific countries that are especially looking for battery sources outside of China.
Wow. Well, you're aligning yourself where you need it to be for sure. If we push through a little bit further with the commercialization, where does NEO currently sit on the path from development to commercial adoption with battery manufacturing?
Yes. So right now, we've been able to go from R&D to our first prototypes for our Asian military drone manufacturer just within a compressed 2-month timeline. And now we are currently conducting optimization work for this type, for the batteries that we've been able to produce just not too long ago. So we would say that within the 6 months, we can ramp up our first commercial prototypes into the market because people think, or the market thinks that Korean batteries would be much more priced more than Chinese batteries, but that's actually not the case because when Chinese batteries gets into, let's say, the US or the Korean market, first of all, there's the tariff portion, but there's also margins that agents charge on the Chinese batteries, which make them much more expensive to purchase with lower quality. So that's why we're trying to price the same as the Chinese, but deliver a much better performance attributes compared to those batteries. So we would say that within the next 3 to 6 months, we can start pushing out our commercial products towards the customers that we have down in the pipeline.
Well, that's a great goal to have and a great, keep going. Great momentum. If we look past the 3 to 6 month mark, if we look into maybe 18, 24 months, I mean, what's next? What are some catalyst moments that you need to hit in order to become a commercially battery material major one player?
Yes, absolutely. So that's a great point that you bring up, because right now the first factory, it's great for us to produce the initial orders and also supply the insides of the batteries, which are called electrodes. And we currently ship those out to Fortune 500 automotive customers. But what we want to position ourselves is a defense battery company. So this is why we've recently secured or acquired a 3.2 acre facility in which we will be putting in a commercial scale drone battery, robotics battery manufacturing line. And that is where we'll be able to hit mass scale in terms of the inflection point of supplying a lot of batteries into the market. So we're expecting that it really depends on what type of battery sizes that we are manufacturing, but we would estimate that the annual battery cells that we can produce within this facility will be somewhere around 2 to 4 million cells per year. And we can supply a lot to defense manufacturers and battery pack manufacturers that are looking for sources outside of China. So you would say that the second expansion facility is one of the most critical factors for moving the company forward towards the next leg of growth.
Fair enough, yeah. What have been some challenges that you have actually been facing, and how have you navigated through those?
Yes, so we've recently pivoted into more of this battery manufacturing company just about 6 months ago. So we would say that the lack of visibility is probably our first bottleneck.
Well, you may know someone who can tell your story.
Yes, absolutely, right here. So this is why we're trying to increase the visibility within the battery manufacturing value chain and also the downstream value chain. But we've gotten a lot of positive reception by attending trade shows and presenting this Korea-made battery. So we would say that we're really in this phase of momentum and accelerating the growth of the company by establishing much more customer pipelines. And we're starting off with South Korea just because that's where the factory is. And we have strategic defense advisors who are 2-star, 4-star generals within the armies. So that's why we're making some inroads to the inner circles of the South Korean government. But we would say that if we're able to supply the batteries to, let's say, the South Korean Army or the Air Force, that would serve as a good use case or case study of credibility so that we can get into the U.S. market much more faster. So we're trying to build out our capabilities first in South Korea and then go into the U.S.
Smart way to do it. Well, it's been a short conversation, but a great conversation. So thank you so much for joining us, and definitely come back soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lyndsay.
Absolutely. Again, that was Daddy Ha, SVP of Strategy and Operations at NEO Battery Materials, trading on the venture under the symbol NBM and on the OTC under NBMFF. Now, you will want to learn more about their company and their push to redefine next-generation battery performance, so visit neobatterymaterials.com. I'm Lyndsay Malchuk, and this is the Market Frontlines, where the companies shaping the future of critical industries step into the spotlight before the rest of the market catches on. Stay tuned. There's more to come.